This is really important to understand, which is your 4 environments. Your biology responds to environment faster than it responds to motivation. So motivation can only take you so far. Then you need your environment to work. And actually, getting your environments right makes discipline a lot easier because motivation isn't there all the time. So you have 4 environments that shape your stress load. You've got your physical, digital, social, and financial. Now, physical and digital environments, you can impact instantly. You can change it straight away. While you can change your financial and social environment, absolutely, with tweaks here and there, but they happen more gradually. It's more of a gradual impact. Now, social environments are your people, your conversations. Financial environment is like your decision load, your numbers that you look at, your profit margins and cash flow, and your income. If this is at a good level, then your financial environment is not causing you stress. Then you've got your physical and your digital, and these are the ones that you can impact straight away. Welcome to Longevity Masters. I'm your host, Grant Hutchby, and this show exists to help anyone and everyone reverse their biological age, to add more life to their years and more years to their life. That's why this show is here. And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to bring all the information, all the tools, everything that you need to help you reverse your biological age. I've created a system, and that system is designed in a way to support business owners and executives to reclaim optimal years of life. And our unique selling point is we have got a unified biological age score where I've looked through the science and I've worked out exactly how to calculate your biological age across multiple platforms. A lot of us only look at one platform, so our wearable device or a metabolic age like body scan, or even some people might have done a cellular age and looked at epigenetic testing and things like that, which is the gold standard. But no one has actually brought all of those things together and created a formula that really works out what your true age is. And what I'm doing in these sessions is I'm taking you through the stuff that I'm doing with my clients, and hopefully you can implement these stuff as well. So let's get into it. Today is all about structuring your environment to control stress, stabilize energy, and extend your performance capacity across your entire day. This session is called Environment Structure, and it's all about your work, your training, your recovery, and your family, and how to balance all of those things so that you can actually perform in all of those areas, not just your work or not just your training. Now, this is going to be all about the ultradian rhythm. It's a biological rhythm within our body that we operate on a day-by-day basis. And every form of demand pulls from this biological system. This sits in what I like to call the build cycle. And I like to use business analogies, and the build cycle is very much like the sales department. And both the build cycle and sales department operate in a way of compounding the stimulation of growth that we've done before that. So department before, if you haven't watched the previous sessions, is marketing. And marketing stimulates growth. And that's the clean department within our body, so the clean cycle. And now we've moved on to the build cycle. What we want to do is we want to compound that. And the ultradian rhythm is the first part to doing that. And stress is a massive part of the ultradian cycle, because while performance can compound, stress compounds as well. So what we don't want is we don't want things compounding in the wrong direction. And most people try to force more output from a system that they never properly recover from. So the ultradian rhythm, I'll get into it in a second, but it's all about performance and recovery on a day-by-day basis. Whereas some other rhythms and some other things that we look at is recovering over a week or over a month. If the system is managed correctly, performance will compound rather than stress compounding. If it's mismanaged, you don't manage it correctly, stress will compound. And today we install the structure that fixes that. So hopefully you can follow along. These are the things that we're going to be covering today, and these are important. which is why your output becomes inconsistent across work, training, and recovery, what's driving it, and how, more importantly, to fix it. So we've got the problem, the cause, and the fix or the framework. Now, by the end of this session, you'll know exactly what good looks like, and you'll have a structure you can run from tomorrow morning. So the ultradian rhythm: strong morning, productive first meeting, then by 2 p.m. you're staring at a screen, rereading the same email, and by 4 p.m. you've stopped making decisions and started just reacting to them, and probably reacting in the wrong way. That's not a discipline problem, that's a rhythm problem. And your day already runs in cycles, and how you manage those cycles will determine how well your day goes. Every 60 to 90 minutes, the system runs a focused output cycle. Then it needs a recovery, and then you can do the next cycle. So it's very much focus, recovery, focus, recovery. And sometimes you can recover for a short amount of time, and other times it needs to be longer. And this applies to every form of demand that you have. So work, training, meetings, family, social events, because you don't want to go to a social event or play with your kids or whatever and do it half-heartedly. You know, these are important parts of your life. We've got adrenaline, which is used in short bursts to support your performance, and focused output within each focused block. Thyroid helps stabilize energy during your recovery. So thyroid works throughout the day, whereas adrenaline is channeled and used for the focused delivery. Recovery brings your heart rate down and primes you for the next block. So if you're constantly keeping adrenaline high, it wears out and your heart rate stays high. So if you never recover, that's where you burn out during the day. How many of your work blocks actually finish with recovery? Intentional recovery, and how many bleed straight into the next one? So you do one task, you finish it, and then you just go straight on to the next task, and you end up sitting there for 3 or 4 hours working on 1, 2, maybe 3 tasks. Recovery is not doing nothing. This is the thing that you have to remember. Recovery is reloading the system for the next block. So the thing that you need to think is you're not recovering, you're reloading. And recovery can be lots of different things. It can be walking in nature, it can be meditating, it can be taking a nap, it could be just getting away from your current environment, having a snack or whatever that might be. But changing the environment is really, really important. This is really important to understand, which is your 4 environments. Your biology responds to environment faster than it responds to motivation. So motivation can only take you so far. Then you need your environment to work. And actually, getting your environments right makes discipline a lot easier, because motivation isn't there all the time. So you have 4 environments that shape your stress load. You've got your physical, digital, social, and financial. Now, physical and digital environments you can impact instantly. You can change it straight away. While you can change your financial and social environment, absolutely, with tweaks here and there, but they happen more gradually. It's more of a gradual impact. Now, social environments are your people, your conversations. Financial environment is like your decision load, your numbers that you look at, your profit margins and cash flow, and your income. If this is at a good level, then your financial environment is not causing you stress. Then you've got your physical and your digital, and these are the ones that you can impact straight away. So your physical is like the light in the room, the temperature, the space, and obviously the environment itself. Is it cluttered? Is it organized? You know that saying of where they say an organized desk is an organized mind, or an organized room is an organized mind? If your environment is organized, your brain will be organized. And it's the same if it's disorganized. You'll have a disorganized mind. Uncertainty on these areas keeps the system open, and open loops create background stress. Every environment either reduces stress or it compounds it. So I guess which of these 4 is leaking the most stress into your system right now? Think about that. Which one do you think is causing you the most stress? Obviously, your digital and your physical you can impact straight away, but your social and your financial, while you can impact that, might be a little bit over a more period of time. So have a think about which ones might be impacting you. Control your environment, lower your stress, and slow the aging curve, because stress is a massive, massive thing to your longevity. So, thyroid. This is one of the parts of the ultradian rhythm. This is what you need to use to recover. Most people think thyroid controls how you feel. It doesn't. It controls the speed your body produces energy. And that's why we use resting heart rate to measure thyroid as a KPI within the system that I run. Thyroid supports metabolism, temperature, heart rate, focus, recovery, and ultimately stable energy all day, or even unstable energy. So we measure the signal, like I said, through resting heart rate, and a stable thyroid obviously equals stable energy, but the opposite is true. A suppressed thyroid equals unstable energy. If you have a strong start, volatile middle, and collapsed end. So what you need to realize here is that you can start well, but if everything becomes volatile and collapsed, you end up falling off the wagon. That's why thyroid is really, really important, because it allows you to balance everything. Modern environments create constant stress signals, and constant stress signals elevate cortisol, which is why cortisol is aligned with people thinking that it's a stress hormone, but used correctly, it's a performance hormone. And elevated cortisol can suppress thyroid function, but used correctly, and cortisol can be used as a performance engine. Now, suppressed thyroid means that you have unstable energy. You have inflammation, poor recovery, and ultimately faster aging. And unstable energy creates unstable performance. Stable energy becomes a competitive advantage. And for business owners and executives, this is a massive, massive thing, because consistency outperforms intensity every day of the week. And your body doesn't care about your ambition. Biology always collects the data. So make sure that you recover. And that's what thyroid is for, recovery in between your work blocks. And if you don't use it, you will ultimately pay the price. So the system rules for thyroid. 3 rules that protect your thyroid throughout the day. Number 1, regular breaks. After every 60 to 90 minute block, you need to have 10 minutes minimum, ideally 15 to 20, but 10 minutes minimum away from screens, no technology, ideally 15 to 20 minutes. You've got to move, breathe, change your environment, get away from your work desk. You might be able to stretch this up to 2 hours, but 60 to 90 minutes is sort of the optimum focused work block. Number 2 is a full reset. You can't survive on these 10, 15, 20 minute breaks all the time. Once you've done a couple work blocks, you will need a full reset, which is 1 deep reset daily. This is a minimum of 30 minutes, ideally an hour, so that you can do a couple things within that time block. So you probably want to eat, you might want to get out and have a walk, just have some space, no phone, keep your phone away, you don't need that. Maybe you could have 5 minutes of catching up with messages, but the majority of that time needs to be away from your devices. And this is ideally in the middle of the day, in between your work blocks that you're doing. And after 2 work blocks is sort of like the recommended amount of blocks that you would do, which is, like I said, walking, food, nature, non-sleep, deep rest, have some quiet space. And again, no work, no notifications, no devices. Rule number 3 is your high performance window. And your high performance window is basically, you don't want to be doing high performance work for more than 6 hours a day on a regular basis. So you're capping your high output work in 6 hours. This includes deep work, calls, like important meetings and calls, training, exercise, and very hard decisions that you need to be making. You don't want to be making hard decisions or important decisions on a depleted system. So max it at 6 hours. You might have the occasional where you can do a little bit more, but you shouldn't be doing more than 6 hours on a regular basis. So you can do that occasionally, but you don't want to live there. So if you live there and recovery debt compounds, what happens is quality creates compounding and quantity creates burnout. And that's where the system gets real. Now, that doesn't mean a maximum of 6 hours work. What that means is a maximum of 6 hours of high output work. You can reserve for the end of the day when you're a little bit drained to do your admin, your messages, your notifications, all that stuff that you can do with low brain input. So next we have adrenaline, and adrenaline is misunderstood. The problem isn't adrenaline. The problem is how much business owners and executives spend with adrenaline at its peak or trying to activate adrenaline. And adrenaline is not urgency. Adrenaline is for precision under pressure. So that's where adrenaline is used at its best. Now, it supports sharp thinking, fast decisions, controlled execution, and it's finite. That's why we limit our focused work blocks to 60 to 90 minutes. And most founders spend their best adrenaline on notifications before the real work starts. That's why you park your phone at the beginning of the day and you do some focused work before the phones and the notifications even come out and even become part of what you're doing in the day. And a reactive start of the day looks like phones first, inbox first, messages first. That spends your adrenaline before the real demand begins. What if you get something through that triggers an emotional response? Your adrenaline goes up, your heart rate goes up, and you just wasted all that energy on notifications. So don't delay that stuff to get your high value work done first. And constant triggering without recovery creates chronic stress. And the way that we measure this is via HRV, heart rate variability. And HRV shows the state of your system. And a high HRV means recovered and adaptive. A low HRV means operating under pressure, operating under load. And performance, to get that high performance, it requires controlled stress. And HRV shows you whether you're managing it well or not. So adrenaline system rules. These are 3 rules to protect your adrenaline as a resource, something that you can call upon when you truly need it and not waste it on cheap things. So rule number 1 is structure the block. 15-minute setup. So this is what a 90-minute block would sort of look like. 15-minute setup, 60-minute focus, and a 15-minute wrap up. You can adjust those times slightly and you can adjust them for longer or shorter blocks, or if you want to do 10 minutes, 70 minutes, 10 minutes, that could be okay as well. But the important thing is that you've got that block and you decide what the block is for before it starts. If your brain doesn't know the objective, it defaults to scanning lots of different things. And that is what I call being a busy fool. Rule number 2, one objective, full attention. So just said it, which is make sure that you know what the block is for, but you need your notifications off. It's one task, no competing inputs. Every interruption pulls you from the same finite supply. So don't have your interruptions. Go off the grid, get that high value task done, whether that's work, exercise, or whatever. Giving your kids your full attention. I've said this before, but it's not discipline. It's you're protecting your resource of adrenaline to be able to do these high value tasks. Rule number 3 is a hard stop time. If you land these points, right? So if you get these right, you'll absolutely manage your adrenaline correctly. Set the stop time before you begin. Never ever more than 2 hours. You don't want to be doing a focused work block for more than 2 hours. And probably you wouldn't want to do more than a couple 2-hour blocks in a day. That would just be way too much. When the block ends, it ends, you stop. It doesn't matter whether you've completed the task or not. I've had this in the past where I've got a demanding task. I thought I was going to finish it. It took a lot longer than I thought it was going to. And actually I hit a stumbling block. I stopped at 2 hours. And then when I came back, I managed to figure it all out because I cleared my brain and I worked out the answer. And that's the amazing thing. You could sit there for half an hour staring at the screen and not get anything done. Or you could take a 10-minute break, come back, figure it out straight away. That's why high performance matters. Then after you've done that work block, that's when the recovery happens. And after that, once you've done your recovery, you can start your new work block. So the point here is define it, to protect it, and then execute it. And that's it. That's adrenaline system rules. So this is what I like to do with all of my training sessions, is to lock the system. It's a bit of a pop quiz. So you've got 5 questions to lock the system in. So follow along. I'll read them out if you're on podcast, but if you're on YouTube, you can watch as it comes up. First question, what rhythm does environment structure manage? Next question, how long is a focused output cycle? Question number 3, what are the 4 environments that you can impact? Number 4, what are the 2 hormones and KPIs that we've just discussed? And number 5, what should you limit your high output hours to daily? Okay, so have a think about those, write down the answers or have a think if you're driving. But question number 1, what rhythm does environment structure manage? The ultradian rhythm. Question number 2, how long is a focused output cycle? 60 to 90 minutes, maximum 2 hours. What are the 4 environments? Physical, digital, social, financial. They're your 4 environments. Manage them right and you reduce stress and you have high performance in each of those areas. What are the 2 hormones and KPIs discussed? Thyroid and resting heart rate, and then adrenaline and HRV. Now, there are lots of other things that impact resting heart rate and HRV. The reason why I've correlated these together, because it gives you a good indication as to how you're managing your workday and recovering effectively. Last but not least, what should you limit your high output hours to daily? And that is 6 hours on a regular basis. So you can sometimes do more than 6 hours, but on a regular basis, you don't want to be doing more than 6 hours. So this is the point I like to make with the pop quiz. Systems recalled equals systems remembered, and that equals systems executed. Get to know the information and you will execute it 100%. Environment structure framework. Take a screenshot of this if you're on YouTube. If you're on podcast, just make a note of the 3 different things on thyroid and adrenaline, or mental note, come back and review it at a different day, or jump onto YouTube so that you can take a screenshot of this. And on the left-hand side, you've got thyroid and the 3 rules that we discussed, which is regular breaks, full reset, and high performance window. And then on the right, you've got the 3 rules, which is structured work block, 1 objective, full attention, and have a hard stop time, never more than 2 hours. And just remember, you're not recovering, you're reloading. And that's a really good way to look at it, because it frames it in a way that allows you to think, yes, I'm doing this to get a much better performance in my next work block, rather than constantly pushing through for hours on end. So that's it. That was environment structure. And we've now built the daily operating structure for having the best work day, for having the best training, for having the best social events and family. And next is the final 5% of the entire system, which is the build cycle. This is where we move from daily performance to long-term compounding. The next framework is called matured longevity, and it focuses on the systems that determine how well you age over the next decade. We've got the rhythm, which is the infradian rhythm. We've got the hormones, which is estrogen and nitric oxide. The KPIs, which are blood pressure and visceral fat. And then the protocols, which are, we're going to be looking at longevity supplements and recovery protocols to get you that extra 5%. So environment structure controls the day. Matured longevity optimizes the years ahead. Today we built the structure. Next, we optimize the systems that determine how well you age long term. So built the structure, now we optimize the years ahead. Hopefully you enjoyed that. If you haven't watched any previous episodes, please go back and watch it, and go to any of my social media bios and everything like that, so that you can work out what your biological age is based on your behaviors. And these behaviors work it out on all aging platforms. So it's totally free. Take the quiz and you can figure out what your trajectory is for your biological age. And I'd love to help anyone to reclaim optimal years of life. And the last thing is, just remember to be young, be happy, and be free, people.